Hi everyone, my name is Gemma Mills and I'm a second seat trainee in our London office, currently sitting in the litigation and dispute resolution team. Today I have the privilege of talking to Thais Garcia, a partner in our New York office. This interview is part of the firm's celebrations of the 50th anniversary of the probation of the first female partner, Rosalind Bax. So, Thais, can you tell me about your route into law and to partnership at Clifford Chance?
Hi, Gemma. It's great to be here talking to you and celebrating this important milestone for our firm. So let's just say that my route into law and partnership has been a long but quite interesting journey through three different countries. I went to law school in Brazil, where I'm originally from. I then moved to Spain to pursue an LLM and joined Clifford Chance in Madrid. And a few years later, the opportunity came for me to relocate to New York to strengthen our Latin America practice. So fast forward 3 years ago and 10 years after I joined the firm, I made partner.
Would you say your experiences as a woman in the legal industry have differed between Spain, New York, Brazil, and in Latin America more broadly, where your practice is now focused?
That's a very interesting question. So my experience in each of these countries has certainly been different, mostly because of cultural differences and the fact that you're practicing law in a different jurisdiction with a different legal system than perhaps a gender issue. Having said that, I do see some common challenges for women in the legal industry in all these countries and regions, starting with the underrepresentation of women in partnership positions. There are still not enough women or diverse partners in law firm in any of these countries. But I do see more diversity in senior rankings in law firms in the US compared to what has been my personal experience in Spain, for example. When it comes to gender equality, if you look at the various studies, women only account for 25% of partners in US law firms, less than 20% in Spain, and about 31% in Brazil. And that's actually an interesting fact about Latin America. While there's still a lot of disparity across the region, contrary to what many think, there are certain countries that have done a much better job than what we've done here in the US when it comes to representation of women in partnership positions. You know, I mentioned Brazil earlier as an example, but there are countries like the Dominican Republic or Nicaragua that on average have 45% of partners are female. And I acknowledge that we've made progress as an industry since I was in law school, and I won't tell you how long ago that was. But the pace of change has been slow, and there's a lot more to be done.
That's great to hear about the figures in Latin America, but it is alarming overall. And the Law Society in the UK have reported that there's more women than men practicing as solicitors in the UK, but there's far fewer women in senior leadership positions. And I read a report from the New York State Bar Association that reported that 75% of practice group leaders or those in management positions in law firms are male. So this problem really isn't one that's isolated to the UK, but it is great to hear about like better progress in Latin America. So what would you say the firm's doing to change this?
No, for sure, that's not an isolated problem. I think that's something that we all need to address. So, in terms of what the firm has been doing, I think that the focus over the last few years has really been a combination of implementing new policies coupled with concrete actions driven by data that will help us accelerate the pace of change. You know, you first have to change the rules to then change the lived experience of our team members. And I'll mention some of the policies and actions that I think are real game changers. So the first meaningful change that I see at our firm in recent years is that we are no longer trying to sugarcoat the issue. You know, gender disparity is an issue. It perhaps less egregious than when I joined the profession or when we had our first female partner in London 50 years ago. But as I said before, there's not enough women making partner in law firms. And as you said, the statistics confirm that, including in our firm. And I talked about partners, but the same is true about business professionals who represent 50% of our firm and play a key role in what we do. So this is not an isolated event just in the UK or in the US, or not something that affects only lawyers, right? It affects women in any profession. So I think that, more than ever, we're talking about these issues, which is great. We also have more data than what we used to. And the gender pay gap reporting is a great example of how we can use data to drive change. The UK has been a pioneer on that. You've passed legislation compelling firms to disclose the difference between what we pay male and female lawyers. And I applaud the UK for such initiative. Because the data reported in the past 2 or 3 years since this new law has been in effect shows unequivocally an over-concentration of women in the lowest paid categories. And it's hard to refute that this is not an issue if the data shows otherwise. And that kind of forces us to take action. And our firm was actually one of the first, if not the first, firm to include partners in its gender pay gap reporting. So that happens whether you're a senior, whether you're junior or senior as well. And I'm glad that the firm did so, because as leaders in the legal industry, we have an obligation to set the tone and lead by example. And more importantly, because when we were presented with the data, the firm took affirmative action. The new inclusion targets are another pioneer initiative of the firm. So I love data. In the last 5 years, 40% of our non-equity partner promotions in the Americas were female lawyers. So we are making progress, but the pace of change is too slow. So just to give you more data for comparison purposes, the year before I made partner, 12% of our partners in the Americas were female. We're now at 18%, and with the new targets, we aim to increase female partners by 35% by 2025, so that's 4 years from now, and by 100% by 2030. And those are pretty ambitious goals, and I'm glad that we're doing that. Another great example of the firm changing the rules so that we can change the lived experience of our team members and increase representation, especially of women and diverse team members, is the Mansfield Rule. So do you like football? I should say American football, to be clear.
I know nothing about either English or
Okay.
American
Yeah.
football.
No worries. That's kind of my case as well. But that's a good thing. So the Mansfield Rule is inspired by an NFL policy that required teams to interview at least one minority candidate for head coach and other front office vacancies. And the Mansfield Rule translates that same policy into the legal industry. The firm has been a participant of the Mansfield Rule since its inception, and the program requires us to consider at least 30% women, people of color, LGBTQ+, and people with disabilities for leadership and governance roles, equity partner promotions, formal client pitches opportunities, and senior lateral positions. We were one of the first firms to adopt it in the US, and I've heard that the Mansfield Rule is now making its way into the UK market, which is great news. And I think
Definitely.
that the Mansfield Rule not only help us police these things, but also help us demystifying certain stereotypes, right? I talk about the path to partnership, but I'm sure we can draw a parallel with the experience of business professionals seeking senior positions at our firm. There's no such a thing as a single path for partnership or a leadership position or a single profile that, makes you partner material. And by requiring us to consider diverse candidates, we now have a much more diverse pool of talent and people with different profiles that otherwise might not have been considered for the positions that they currently hold. And to me, that's a positive reinforcement that there's no such a thing as one single profile, that you either need to fit in or, you're out.
I didn't know about the Mansfield Rule, but that's really interesting. And it's great to hear that it's making its way over to the UK as well, and also that the firm's been using it sort of from its inception. I agree with you that the inclusion targets are a big step forwards, because I think they really encourage the firm to think beyond the people that might be the more obvious candidates for promotion or recruitment, and they make the firm consider the more diverse candidates that are just as suitable for the role, but just might not be front of mind. So, how would you say the Clifford Chance that I'm currently experiencing as a trainee differs from that you experienced when you were a trainee?
So I love to see that we now have more women and diverse lawyers making partners, and holding senior roles at our firm, but also that these amazing and successful women and diverse lawyers have very different profiles and personal experiences. And I didn't necessarily see that earlier on in my career. Right? Well, talking about women, for example, I didn't have many female role models in the early days of my career, but today I have several. And I love to see that, some of them are single, some of them are married, some have kids, some don't, some never wanted kids, some are divorced, some were part-time, some worked full-time, some wanted to change the world, others not so much. Some of them made partner really fast. Others wanted to, prioritize, for instance, family and focus later on in partnership, but they all made it. They all made it to the top. So to me, not only having a lot more representation, but also having women with very different backgrounds and career paths that I could look up to and that inspire me is a real game changer.
Yeah, I really, really agree with that. And I think I feel so lucky to be at the firm today and as a trainee today when I have so many female role models to look up to that have just had such different experiences and backgrounds. And it's great because rather than saying, oh, there's a woman that's a partner, therefore I'm female, I can be a partner. There's far more complex factors involved in like who you are and things like that. And you can see people that you do consider maybe like you in different ways that have done it. So no, it is really, really great. But you talked about the policies of the firm and some concrete actions that the firm's taking to promote gender equality. So, is there anything else that you think or believe that can help us to accelerate the pace for change?
There is. We can't do this without full support and commitment from senior management. And we also need to bring more men to the table. I mean, a lot more men to the table. The conversation on gender equality cannot be a conversation just between women. For the same reason, diversity, equity, and inclusion shouldn't be the responsibility of our diverse team members in HR. Senior management of the firm is fully invested on this. If you talk to our senior partner, our managing partner here in the Americas, that's on the top of their minds. It's a key priority. And they are driving some of these policy changes and actions that we discussed earlier. And they're personally invested and committed to this. And that, again, is very different than what was my experience as a trainee lawyer like you. But men need to find a way to be comfortable being uncomfortable and having these conversations if we really want to accelerate the pace of change. We can't do this by ourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
So Gemma, now it's my turn. I'd like to ask you a question because I do believe that younger generations like yours are driving some of the most meaningful changes in our industry. So in your opinion, what else do you think we should be doing as a firm to accelerate the pace of progress and support you and other women progress in your careers?
I very much agree with what you said about men needing to be involved in the process. And I think things like the firm's reverse mentoring program and things like that are really great for involving men in the process and having those conversations that need to be had to progress. And when such a large proportion of senior management is made up of men, then men really do need to be involved in the process to accelerate this change. I think actually campaigns like this interview series and other honest and open conversations are really important too, because it allows junior women like me to see that women before us have gone on and done the things that we might want to do. And it highlights role models that you can have in that way. But I think it also enables you to identify other areas where progress is needed. For example, when senior women talk about the problems they might have faced or might not have been resolved in a way that was satisfactory or would work today or is future proof. And it's also great for giving you the confidence to change things, that when you hear about women who have identified an issue and they've been able to speak up about it or enact change, or they've spoken about it and the firm has changed something as a result, then it does give you the confidence to do it yourself. And you don't think, oh, there's going to be a huge negative reaction, nothing's going to happen, there's no point doing it. You think, do you know what, actually, I can improve the situation for myself and for others, and people want to help me to do that. So I think, yeah, conversations like this, thank you so much for your time today. I've said this is what I think will help to bring about the change. So thank you so much for talking to me today and being so honest and open about the changes that you think have been made and what is left to be done.
Well, thank you for having me, and let's continue having those conversations.